Some people spend their entire lives chasing money and never find peace. Others manage to earn more, yet lose their joy, their stability, or their sense of purpose along the way. And then Scripture introduces a different outcome altogether. It shows us individuals who experienced provision with peace because they understood how God governs money. This difference is not always visible in effort. Two people may work just as hard, wake up at the same hour, apply similar strategies, and pursue the same goals. Yet one remains trapped in financial pressure, while the other moves steadily towards stability. The Bible makes it clear that the issue is not effort alone. It is an order. Scripture consistently shows that money responds to alignment. When financial decisions follow God's order, provision becomes sustainable. When that order is ignored, money becomes a source of anxiety rather than peace. This pattern appears repeatedly throughout Scripture, across generations, cultures, and circumstances. The Bible records the life of King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest man who ever lived. Solomon did not become wealthy by chasing money. He became wealthy by seeking wisdom and placing God first. When God appeared to Solomon and offered him anything, Solomon did not ask for riches. He asked for wisdom to govern rightly. Because Solomon placed wisdom before wealth, God added riches, honor, and stability. This order matters. Solomon's prosperity was not accidental. It followed God's design. Solomon inherited a kingdom, but he did more than preserve it. He expanded it through trade, diplomacy, and careful administration. Silver became common in his time. Gold flowed into the kingdom. Peace surrounded Israel's borders. But Scripture does not attribute this outcome to luck or intelligence alone. It records that Solomon walked in God's wisdom. The wisdom Solomon recorded was not theoretical. It was practical. It was meant to govern daily decisions, habits, and priorities. These principles were preserved in Scripture not as abstract philosophy, but as truth that produces results. This is not about motivation. It is not about hustle, shortcuts, or human formulas. This is about biblical truth that determines whether money becomes a blessing or a burden. The first lesson concerns priority. Scripture teaches that God must come first, not symbolically, not emotionally, but practically. The first portion belongs to God as acknowledgement of the source. When God is placed first, order is established. When this order is ignored, money loses stability. Expenses expand, pressure increases, peace disappears. Solomon understood that money was never designed to lead the heart. When money becomes the focus, fear enters. Fear of loss, fear of not having enough, fear of the future. But when God occupies first place, money becomes a tool rather than a master. Scripture consistently records this principle. When people honored God first, provision followed without sorrow. When they reversed the order, wealth arrived with anxiety and conflict. Placing God first does not mean rejecting money. It means placing money in its proper position. When the order is correct, provision flows naturally. When the order is broken, money becomes unstable regardless of the amount. The second lesson concerns diligence. Solomon observed that diligence leads to abundance while laziness produces scarcity. This is not merely about working hard. It is about working faithfully, consistently, and wisely. Scripture draws a clear distinction between constant activity and productive effort. Many people stay busy yet remain unproductive. Others work steadily and build lasting results. The difference is discipline. Solomon warned that haste leads to poverty. Those who pursue quick results without structure eventually lose what they gain. God honors consistency, not impulsive effort. Diligence builds character. It builds credibility. It builds stability. When a person commits to consistent effort, even when results are not immediate, growth follows. Scripture shows that God blesses excellence. Those who persevere gain authority and trust. Those who avoid effort remain stuck. The third lesson concerns generosity. One of the most misunderstood truths in Scripture is that giving does not make a person poor. It positions them for an increase. Solomon recorded that some people give generously and continue to gain more. Others withhold even what they have and end up lacking. This truth goes against human logic, but Scripture records it consistently. Generosity breaks the grip of fear. It removes the obsession with accumulation. When a person gives with the right heart, money loses its power to control them. Scripture teaches that serving the poor is lending to God. and God is faithful to repay what is entrusted to him. Giving not only produces material outcomes, it produces peace, it produces freedom, it produces emotional clarity. When a person lives generously, they stop clinging to money for security. They begin trusting God instead. And when trust replaces fear, provision flows without pressure. But generosity requires freedom, and that leads to the next lesson. The fourth lesson concerns debt. Solomon was direct about this. The borrower becomes a servant to the lender. This statement is not symbolic. It is practical. Debt limits freedom. It conditions decision. It replaces vision with urgency. A person in debt works under pressure rather than purpose. Scripture does not present debt as harmless. It shows that obligation steals peace and narrows options. God's desire has always been freedom, not bondage. True prosperity includes the ability to choose. Debt removes that ability. Solomon taught that wise living includes restraint. Living within one's means preserves freedom. Avoiding unnecessary obligations protects the future. When a person is free from debt, clarity returns. Decisions become intentional. The future opens again. But even freedom from debt is not enough without one final principle. The fifth lesson concerns consistency. Laziness produces scarcity in every area of life. Solomon did not soften this truth. He observed that those who delay, excuse, and avoid responsibility remain stuck. Scripture teaches that a little neglect repeated over time produces loss. Consistency, not intensity, builds stability. God honors faithfulness. Small actions, repeated daily, compound into lasting results. Those who persevere build strong foundations. Those who wait for perfect conditions never begin. This is why Scripture celebrates faithfulness over talent. Faithfulness applies structure across time. It refuses to allow emotion to override discipline, and this completes the framework. The fifth lesson Solomon recorded concerns consistency. Scripture does not treat consistency as optional. It treats it as foundational. Solomon observed that laziness produces scarcity, not only in finances, but in life itself. He did not describe laziness as rest. He described it as avoidance. Avoidance of responsibility, avoidance of discipline, avoidance of effort when effort is required. The Bible is direct about this. A little delay becomes a habit becomes a pattern, and a pattern becomes a destiny. Solomon understood that wealth is not built in moments of intensity, but through faithful repetition. Those who work only when motivated remain unstable. Those who act consistently, even when they do not feel inspired, build something that lasts. God honors faithfulness over bursts of effort. He honors the person who shows up, day after day, and applies wisdom steadily. Consistency produces trust. Trust produces opportunity, and opportunity produces increase. This is why many people remain stuck despite knowing what to do. They wait for emotion instead of committing to discipline. They delay decisions that should be made immediately. And over time, the delay compounds into loss. Solomon did not associate prosperity with extremes. He associated it with steadiness, with rhythm, with the order applied across time. And this brings all the lessons together. Wisdom without diligence produces intention without results. Diligence without generosity produces pressure without peace. Generosity without freedom collapses under obligation. Freedom without consistency eventually erodes. Each principle depends on the others. This is why Solomon's wisdom reads less like advice and more like structure. Remove one part, and the system weakens. Ignore the sequence, and the outcome changes. Scripture consistently shows that money responds to order. When God is placed first, priorities align. When priorities align, decisions improve. When decisions improve, resources stabilize. And when resources stabilize, peace follows. This is not a coincidence. It is designed. The Bible records households that honored this order and endured for generations. It also records nations that ignored it and collapsed despite abundance. The difference was never access. It was alignment. Solomon understood that money reveals what governs a person's heart. If money governs, fear increases. If God governs, clarity increases. This is why some people earn more and feel less secure. More income amplifies disorder. More responsibility magnifies misalignment. And without wisdom, increase becomes a burden rather than a blessing. Scripture never portrays wealth as evil. It portrays unmanaged wealth as dangerous. Wealth without wisdom destroys relationships. It fractures families. It produces pride, anxiety, and isolation. But wealth governed by wisdom produces stability. It supports others. It creates margin. It allows generosity without fear. Solomon's life demonstrates this contrast clearly. His wisdom attracted provision, and for a time, that provision was sustained because order was maintained. When order was compromised, pressure followed. The same wisdom literature that records his success also records the cost of deviation. Scripture is honest about outcomes. It does not protect reputations. It records consequences. This is why the biblical approach to money feels different from modern thinking. Modern systems prioritize speed. Scripture prioritizes order. Modern culture celebrates risk without restraint. Scripture emphasizes stewardship with foresight. Modern thinking says more money solves problems. Biblical wisdom says order solves problems, and money follows. Return to the question raised at the beginning. Why do some remain financially stuck, while others experience provision with peace? It is not because God favors some and neglects others. It is not because effort is absent. It is not because opportunity is rare. It is because order is either established or ignored. When financial decisions are made reactively, instability follows. When priorities are reversed, pressure increases. When discipline is inconsistent, results disappear. But when God's order governs money, something changes. Money loses its power to dominate decisions. Fear loses its grip. Peace becomes possible even before abundance arrives. This is why Scripture consistently connects wisdom to wealth, not because wisdom guarantees riches, but because it governs what riches require to remain. The silent money error that keeps many people stuck is not a lack of effort. It is not a lack of knowledge. It is a lack of order. People attempt to fix financial strain by earning more, while leaving the structure unchanged. But income flows through the structure. If the structure is disordered, income will leak regardless of volume. Solomon understood this clearly. He did not begin by asking God for wealth. He asked for wisdom, and when wisdom came first, provision followed. That sequence matters. When money comes before wisdom, it exposes weakness. When wisdom comes before money, it builds capacity. This is why Scripture presents money as a servant, not a master. A servant follows orders. A master creates pressure. The Bible never instructs people to worship money. It instructs them to manage it under God's authority. When God governs financial decisions, money becomes a tool for purpose rather than a source of stress. Provision becomes sustainable, and peace becomes possible. The order Solomon followed remains unchanged. The principles recorded in Scripture still operate. Those who align with them experience stability. Those who ignore them experience repetition. The outcomes are not random. They are consistent. The wisdom is ancient. The structure is enduring, and the results continue to speak for themselves.